Sometimes I wonder, maybe I am a narcissist.
Really?
Yeah. Well, as your friend, I'm just curious. Tell me why you think you might be a narcissist. Well, my partner and I get into these fights sometimes, and I can get really mean and say terrible things. Okay. Would you say during these arguments, it feels like you maybe get so heated that you kind of boil over and it feels like you don't have control over what you're saying anymore? Yeah, definitely. Okay. What else? Well, I just feel like I've pulled away, emotionally, physically, like I just don't care anymore. And then they tell me I'm neglecting or mistreating them, and I feel guilty because maybe they're right. Sure, that makes sense. Let me ask you a question. Has your partner ever called you a narcissist or said you were acting like one? Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you another question, and I want you to answer honestly. Yes or no? Is your partner kind of a jerk? Well, and what I mean by that is, do they dismiss your feelings often? Do they tell you you're too needy? Do they tend to think about themselves more than others? Do they really care about your desires and dreams or hurts, or does that stuff not really cross their mind? It doesn't really cross their mind. Okay. And during these fights that you describe, are they consistently invalidating your feelings or experience, telling you stop making a big deal about nothing? Are they escalating the conflict? Are they getting defensive, counter-blaming? Or are they actually trying to listen and understand your concern? They would probably say, your feelings aren't my problem. Right. Last question. Do you feel a little scared to set boundaries because you feel like, one, it wouldn't work anyways because they wouldn't respect it, and two, it would just lead to another fight, so you just try not to rock the boat? Probably both. Yeah, I can understand that. All right, I've got good news and I've got bad news. Which one do you want first? Let's go with the bad news. Bad news is this relationship isn't going to work. Jeez, what's the good news? Good news is you're not a narcissist. How do you know? It's pretty simple, actually. A true narcissist doesn't care about sacrificing for their partner. So if you genuinely care about changing any of your behavior to have a better relationship with them, you're not a narcissist. So what am I? You're a human who is in an unfulfilling relationship, desperately trying to get their needs for closeness and connection met in the wrong ways or with the wrong person. That's why you're fighting all the time and you're pulling away, because you don't actually trust your partner anymore. What do you mean? I mean, relationships are built on trust. Trust doesn't simply mean having confidence that they aren't going to cheat. It means I trust that this person cares about how I feel loved, valued, and prioritized, that they have my best interest in mind. I can rely on them when I'm in pain. Do you actually trust your partner, really? I mean, to be fair, I can rely on them sometimes. Sure, everyone is reliable sometimes, but that's not what the word reliable means. Reliable is consistency, right? If you can only trust that someone will show up for you occasionally, and the other times they're going to turn against you by calling you names, or disrespecting, or invalidating, or neglecting you, that's not a trustworthy person. They would say, I'm being disrespectful because I'm complaining. Sure, you are complaining because your basic needs are being ignored, and you've been conditioned to believe that your need to be valued and prioritized and respected mutually in a relationship is asking for too much. And that was wrong. You're not asking for too much by needing to feel safe emotionally and physically around your partner. You're not asking for too much by needing closeness and connection from someone who says they love you. Is that why I'm starting to resent them? Absolutely it is. Now, that doesn't justify any of our toxic or harmful behavior, but your anger is trying to protect you. It's telling you, wake up. This isn't fair. You're being mistreated. And that's probably also why I'm pulling away, huh? Yes, because your body is trying to protect itself. It's normal to pull away from unsafe situations, right? It's normal to pull away from untrustworthy people. I think your brain knows more than your heart is willing to admit right now. So what am I supposed to do? You risk the discomfort of this relationship potentially ending by actually learning about, identifying, and then vulnerably and respectfully advocating for your legitimate needs in this relationship. Easier said than done. True. And it's also necessary. You need to start showing up as you again. Stop trying to gain external validation through someone else's love and approval. Your worth and value isn't tied to their view of you, right? So stop arguing with someone who doesn't care about your perspective. Stop fighting with someone who has no capacity or desire to actually listen or validate. You're both getting triggered. You're both acting immaturely. But you need to own your part and stop. It's just crazy because in the moment I feel like if I could just use the right words, then they would understand. But it never works, does it? No. You have to stop yelling to be heard. You're so scared to set boundaries around their toxic behaviors like name-calling or yelling because you don't want to cause disconnection, right? But let's be honest, we're already there. You're completely disconnected in this relationship and within yourself. You've been so afraid of being abandoned that you've abandoned yourself. How do I set a boundary if they won't respect it? I don't need for them to respect my boundary in order to establish it. A boundary doesn't require anything from them. A boundary is me saying, if you yell or call me names during a conflict, I'm leaving this discussion for 30 minutes. I mean, I told them not to yell at me. That's a request. There's no actions behind it. And when they did yell at you, You stayed in that conflict and either yelled back or kept arguing to try to get them to see your point of view, which they never did. And what if they just follow me, screaming at me while I'm trying to leave the room? Then that's a very dangerous spot to be in. And if they won't go talk to a professional about that, then this relationship has no trust or respect, which means it's almost over. So essentially, I don't set boundaries because I'm scared of being disconnected, but my lack of boundaries and my inability to be assertive about my needs also leads to disconnection. Is that what you're saying? Yep. So the solution is healing my own immaturity and wounds and fears around abandonment or rejection. Stop ignoring the red flags and pretending like everything's fine when it isn't, and start building my own self-esteem and worth and value in myself first. Exactly. And then showing up authentically in my relationship, setting appropriate healthy boundaries, and establishing a standard by which I'm going to treat my partner with respect and consideration and kindness, and expecting the same from someone who says they love me. Absolutely. And being prepared that some relationships end because the other person isn't willing to put in that healing or consideration work. And that's okay. That doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them bad partners for us, even though that's still really hard to end those relationships. It's extremely hard, and I don't want relationships to end. I want both partners to heal and learn how to build trust and friendship and intimacy and emotional connection together. I want relationships where you both respect each other mutually and learn how to communicate with empathy instead of arguing all the time, where you both value and prioritize each other's desires, needs, and hurts equally. I feel like there's a but coming, but we can't control them. We can't boundary someone into loving us. We can't force someone else to value and prioritize us, right? People can only meet you as deep as they've met themselves. And if they want to stay in the shallow end while you want to go deep and experience actual true intimacy and connection with someone, you have to let that person decide how they're going to live their life. And I have to decide if they're the type of partner that aligns with what I actually need to feel supported and safe and close. Exactly. Okay, last question. How do I know if my partner is a narcissist? It's the wrong question. It doesn't matter. Everything we just talked about negates all the labels we throw at people. Avoidant, narcissist, self-centered. I don't care what you want to label them as. The only question that matters is, do they care about putting in the work of humility and mutual respect and consideration? Do they care about honoring your boundaries? Do they care about what you need to experience closeness? If the answer is no, you can label them as whatever you want. Here's a label for them. Not a great fit for you. Right? Right. When we're on our own healing journey, we don't need to judge other people. We don't need to make them suffer so that they better understand our pain. We can more easily see them for who they are deep inside, which is sometimes someone who is scared and unhealed, and that's why they do the things that they do. And we can have empathy and compassion for what they went through. That doesn't mean we need to step into their life and become a punching bag and allow them to project all their unhealed trauma onto us. Yeah, because we understand our worth and value. We understand what we deserve, and we have a standard for how we want to be treated, regardless of the relationship, intimate, friendship, colleague at work, with our parents. It's all about reciprocation, right? True. It's not about perfection. We're all going to mess up. We're all going to make mistakes, but the relationships that make it are ones that can repair and apologize and take accountability and ultimately reconnect. How do you know all this? Because sadly, I used to be a narcissist. Really? No, I'm just kidding. It's because I realized my role in the environments that I found myself in, and I took accountability for what I could change, and I processed and accepted what I couldn't, and I started on my own healing journey. Well, I'm glad you did. Me too.